You're going to love this. Trust me, what you're seeing now is my normal state.
Welcome, I'm Spaghetti King, and today I'll be doing something I wanted to do for a while, actually, because I knew I had this. And basically, a year ago, when I was checking out quite a bit new anime at the time, I tended to write down my initial thoughts on them, and I've been wanting to basically read my notes for a while. Just read my notes out, see what we can find in there, because I have years old worth of notes. I just got to 3,000 notes 2 days ago, something like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So we'll be reading my initial thoughts, around my year-old thoughts on Attack on Titan, I believe. I believe it's around a year old. So this is up to Season 3 at the time, right? Keep in mind, Season 4 had not come out, so this is my initial thoughts up to Season 3 at that point, okay? Not going to be talking about Season 4 here, so, if you haven't seen it, I guess, good for you, but that's what it's going to be in this case, alright? So, I'll just begin from here. You should see it on your screen as well, but, we'll see what we can get out of this. Okay, so Attack on Titan. I was introduced to this series by a friend of mine, of whom I was visiting at the time. He decided to show the series to me, and we watched all of it, all the seasons from there. My only exposure to Attack on Titan, which I had seen before I watched the series here, was through the trailer to the 4th season, which the same friend had shown me, and perhaps viewing the first opening of the series when it was first getting popular, although I'm unsure if I'd even done that. Therefore, I entered this series only with opinions I had heard from other people, which were limited. I was aware of the perception of Attack on Titan through a variety of communities. I knew millennials watched it, I knew people who didn't like anime watched it, I knew anime people still promoted it. Granted, I had heard some who didn't like it say their opinion changed in the 2nd and 3rd season. My friend even told me that I would like it in Season 2 and 3 if I didn't like Season 1. Ultimately, I watched with all knowledge of this and judged it as I am writing to you now entirely on these grounds. Something that is appealing about this series to people who are unaccustomed to longer-paced series is that Attack on Titan is made in a very fast-paced and digestible way. Someone who doesn't like anime, I believe, could watch Attack on Titan. The first season is 25 episodes, which is around an average for an in-depth series. The following seasons and the next season are split into 12-episode packages, easily digestible. The show itself paces itself for you to ease your viewing. This is an appealing structure, but it also makes different seasons of the series have a different perception. As I was told, Season 1 is the basic introduction, which may be fundamental or perhaps less interesting. Season 2 ups the pace and stakes and makes the series more political, and Season 3 is a political drama. Despite the widespread opinions which I'm sure my friend recited, I largely ignored these sentiments. Ultimately, I can say I enjoyed the first season the most out of any of them. That was also due to the very large shift in the entire context of the story which occurred at the end of Season 3, which soured my view of the plot at large, but I'll speak of that later. Season 1 begins with a flashback introducing the characters. This introduction is quite basic, and the foreshadowing of the Titan's appearance already puts you in the right mindset while viewing this introduction. I hope this isn't lagging here. Let's go down here. Give it a second. I see why many could view this as plain, but it does a fine job characterizing the protagonist and establishing the stakes of the story which will be reverberated for the rest of the series. While this is done very quickly, which helps someone get into it without losing patience, the show's later reference to nearly all the elements introduced in this beginning flashback, one might argue, could have warranted a longer time making us privy to the life in this wall section before having it all end in the first episode. I'm reading at this. I hope you're not getting lens flares shining in your face and whatnot. All these plot points which are mentioned here are established in this first episode. The basement, the colossal and armored titans, the mother of Eren's death along with the titan who kills her, blonde drunkard policeman who will later die, everything to do with Eren's dad, etc. All these links are followed up on for later, and while it's nice the series is aware of all the elements in play from the beginning, keeping track of it is made harder given the series' fast pace. Ultimately, this is only an issue depending on the person, and it does mean repeat viewings, and viewers who pay attention will ultimately get more out of the series, which is good in the long run. Moreover, as is something I came to reflect on after seeing the series, viewers who were catching up with this series week by week would have loved all these angles and seemingly quick-shown elements which continue to be expanded to giant proportions, leaving them with plenty of room for speculation. For me as it was, though, watching the entire series in one viewing, I could not take it in separate chunks, as others would have. I believe seeing the series all at once does allow me to judge its plot and characterization as a whole more fairly, though, to that end, I will speak about characterization. This series, interestingly, does this quite well, and regardless of shifts in the context of the story, this element remains intact the whole way. I will now simply go through a variety of characters and refer to their characterization. I'll refer to the three main characters last. Okay. The Colonel had an episode giving him further perspective where he says he is but a normal man. He knows others are special, with scene direction pointing to the protagonists and primo supporting characters, but he is just a normal man. This is interesting as it announces that being a normal person is alright. The series, especially early on, referred to war and those who deal with it in this regard. There are those who wish to live basic lives of peace and comfort, and therefore play by the books, and fight if they need to rise through the ranks and achieve material and social success. And there are those who have principles from which they fight for and ultimately fight in war and the military to prove these ideals true. The series announces this and makes note many times of characters who rise through the ranks by applying the books, not necessarily saying this on its own is bad, only when one falsely proclaims to be an idealist, when in reality they are just simply afraid. The show gives respect to characters who are honest. If you rise through the ranks being an ideologue, but turn out to have no principles in reality, or run against the wall, you are presented in a bad light. This is why Aaron can be viewed in the good light, even though he consistently fails. He is honest and firm in his convictions, even as he loses confidence in himself. To restate my point, the Colonel is normal, understands he is, and is honest about this. Therefore, for his honesty, even though his point in regards to it is to have recompense in being unexceptional, he is respected by the presentation of the story. Mikasa similarly has a very simple goal, but stands by it firmly, and is therefore presented in a good light. Consistent stance on goal, not grandiosity of goal, is defended, and I think this is very appropriate in almost any series, and for it to be communicated so fundamentally here makes the frame which I can view the moral conviction of each character easily understandable and agreeable, at least until Season 3. On Krista/Historia, I originally just called her a nice girl because, as I explained, nice guys finish last, but nice girls finish first. I can't believe that's in my notes. Forget the Lens Flare. I can't believe that's in my notes. I simply liked her character for that reason. But that on its own doesn't mean her characterization is done well. I felt awkward when Kaguya Freckles, the female one that became a Titan with Kaguya-sama's black hair, said that she was nice as a facade because she vainly wishes to be perceived as such. Ultimately, this was true when she said she was the worst person in the world to Eren. Therefore, she is a nice character, but vain and a bit inept. This was communicated a bit awkwardly, given all the political dump she needs to go through once that is revealed. And all of it is basically concluded in the "I'm the worst person in the world" statement, which feels a bit awkward unless you've paid attention to each character beat. As though she was nice, she explains and admits her vainness in pursuing attention. The weight of that statement does tend to go over, though, because she is not made significant failures other than being nice for attention, which largely was only minded by her, and being manipulated by her father, which she also could be defended in, unlike Eren, who has consistently failed to meet his goal. Jean, or as we called him, the Frenchman, was a character I consistently disliked. He was originally introduced as a polar opposite of Eren, as he represented the idea of going through the ranks without convictions to get to the comforts of the inner wall. He slowly, subtly develops throughout the series, which I enjoy, because he fails consistently and improves lightly and slowly in each situation he's in. Though I can dislike him even at the end of Season 3, he goes from doing the bare minimum to live to fighting in the front line, even leading people while Armin was afraid. This is one thing to keep in mind. Attack on Titan tells you, you need balls, or as I should say, balls. The main things that change within the Frenchman are simple. He gets balls and loyalty. His sensibilities are largely the same by the end, but he isn't static, just subtle. He also has a crush on Mikasa, which is funny because it offers a three-way example of character interest. Jean has interest in Mikasa, she doesn't care. Mikasa cares deeply for Eren, he takes it for granted. Again, I couldn't go in as this much detail right now about Attack on Titan, so I'm just reading my thoughts right now. This is interesting. This is a year-old me, so this is what I was thinking a year ago. So, Levi is very epic and fun to watch, but the main reason I like him is because of his firmness. He's quite simple overall, but simply because he can combine firmness with letting others take their course, because he doesn't have the time to watch others' problems, is interesting. Seeing Levi make an error is great, When he fought the Beast Titan and failed to kill him due to legitimate confusion, I had no qualms. Season 3 intentionally introduces a moral turnaround, which then completely confuses me on how I should feel about the moral standing and worth of each character. Once the Titans became fellow patriots, how should I feel about who is immoral? I suppose it should be this morally, but I have not seen a simple objective evil such as the consumption of humans without remorse, which the Titans had done. Executing actors in a rebellious political movement is far more morally gray than man-eating creatures. The series had told me up to this point, remain firm in honesty convictions, you are worthy of respect. Now it has completely uprooted many of these principles, especially the protagonist's views characters had followed. Now it is not a survival narrative, it is a race war in essence. Once again, what was objectively moral is made to be morally gray. Ultimately, I still view the Titans as evil. Everything they have done in the series has been evil. If you turned a human into a beast by removing their frontal lobe, I'd view them as a beast still. Did suffering create their inhumanity, caused by another? Indeed, but a beast is a beast. I am now supposed to feel suffering for the Titans rather than from them after every awful thing and death they've caused in the series? No. And this new nation, they are who I must oppose. They look at an advanced civilized nation which believes less in freedom and more in order. They believe in homogeneity, something which any tribe, especially in a hostile world, would believe in. Those behind the walls didn't even require review of race because they had no relations with other races. Therefore, even though this story hasn't told me to feel this way, I feel this Marley nation to be largely justified in its actions, and I see them all as normal or to be expected of nations, especially nations which needed to be kept safe. Obviously, this nation is supposed to have a correlation with Nazi Germany to make the viewer easily hate them, but if you bring race into it, and when I think about it, there are far fewer objective reasons given for me to hate this adversary. Perhaps that is good, in seeing Aaron's disappointment and his final conviction that the Marley must be all killed for him to achieve what he wants. Aaron is basically committing genocide to a people in the name of freedom because of millennia of race war. I cannot stand by that at all. I find that disgusting, and it's good he at least disappointingly comes to that conclusion. The problem is if everyone around Aaron agrees. This means I have to support for the goals of the characters and basically none of them anymore except Mikasa, because all she cares about is keeping Aaron and Armin safe. But the show just insulted not only Mikasa's convictions, but everything she is sacrificed for by putting a limit on the remainder of Aaron and Armin's lives. Therefore, unless this new season changes my perspective of these villains, which could possibly happen, so long as they make them truly hypocritical, I have no support in the goals of all these characters in this series, all the Ymir people. Okay, that next line's gonna be a big one, but yeah, basically what I said is, because of this whole race war concept and this basically like genocidal like war like sentiments that are like coming up, I basically said the main characters I do not have support for. So Aaron and his crew and what he wants, I don't really have support for them anymore. I do not support them, I do not stand by them. Basically the only character in this circumstance, is if everyone agrees with Aaron, the only one who I support in the series at this point is Mikasa, because all she wants to do is keep Aaron alive and whatnot. That's what I said there, if that was too eloquent for you. Okay. Time for some big ones. I went out, okay. This is basically asking me if Jews went for a reverse Holocaust on Germans, even though Marley is not committing genocide, just segregating Ymirs and punishing Ymir terrorists, would you support it or find it justifiable? And my answer is an absolute and firm no. Such notions are completely destructive and unknoble, so why should I support such here, especially when it has an even less solid grounding? Okay, that seems reasonable, but I probably said whatever. Armin is the least fleshed out of the three main characters. He serves with the triangle of character contrast within these three mains. Aaron is low IQ, has balls, grandiose ideas, largely acts on his own. Armin is high IQ, no balls, humble ideas, leads others. Mikasa is high IQ, has balls, humble ideas, and is not a leader. Very well put, me. While he's contributed significantly to numerous victories throughout the series, which I appreciate, we need to promote strategists more as actually valuable. His main growth is simply, like Jean, in gaining balls. It is actually seen directly that Jean grows balls faster than Armin, given that Armin pisses himself so much that the Frenchman needs to temporarily lead his place. Besides that, his rank and prestige improve as he shows himself more capable, but this doesn't particularly change in his overall worldview, because along with his lack of balls, he also has quite humble ideas despite his intelligence. This is appealing because it makes it a flawed character in action, which is appealing to see. War is straining and people can break down no matter how proficient they are. However, all this that I've stated, if you may realize, is general. Armin's pathos and his successes are exterior, relating to combat or social status, meaning though he has an internal conflict of fear, this is also general. Armin's growth is general, not complex. Something is appealing about this in comparison not with Eren and Mikasa, but with the Frenchmen, because their arc is somewhat similar, with the Frenchmen ultimately becoming more like Eren and Armin, ultimately becoming more like Erwin Smith. Okay. So that was Armin. I didn't even make the Mikasa section a separate section, but we're going into Mikasa, so yeah, bring it on, me. Mikasa, in my mind, is the best character in Attack on Titan. She isn't my favorite character, thumbs up for Levi, but she is the most active protagonist and accomplished character. This is something I didn't mention. Eren and Mikasa are subversions on the traditional male-female roles in the stories, based off natural principles. Eren is a reactionary protagonist who has never won a battle on his own, has shown an inability to remain level-headed and maintain confidence, and needs the encouragement of others to do so, and has brought his emotions into military decisions and questioned commands from above him numerous times. Moreover, he breaks down and has cried, as in bawled, several times. Mikasa is an accomplished Mikasa is an accomplished active protagonist who has won nearly any battle she has fought in, killed more Titan enemies than any other character on screen by far, Levi's Titan Massacre in Season 3 perhaps excluded, has shown competence and following orders properly and remains stoic and emotionally stable regardless of almost any stress put on her. The only exception to this is in regards to Eren, for whom she will act very impulsively and aggressively to help, regardless of orders or exceptions. Mikasa has only lost confidence when she lost gas and was surrounded in the pincer attack by 2 Titans where she accepted her death, when she and Eren were going to be eaten by the Titan that ate Eren's mom when she couldn't transform, where she also cried, and when she cried seeing Armin's sheared, nearly dead body. Mikasa also has visual traits traditionally seen in a leading protagonist, that is, marking. Mikasa's scar and her scarf, which I will review later, are unique symbols of her character design. Eren, on the other hand, has never appeared unordinary by design. This is all true as a general statement with 2 exceptions, personality and relations. Starting with the latter, Eren does not act in a feminine role when interacting with Mikasa, even though she would do whatever he wanted to help him. Eren has never begged or even asked Mikasa to follow him. Moreover, he acts stoic and composed around her, and rarely mentions anything that would imply himself to be inadequate. It is something nice to see. Friends not talk about work or plot, just enjoy each other's company. Certainly. Mikasa, on the other hand, when speaking with Eren, will almost never disagree with him unless he has made some factual error, will drop everything to help him if he is in danger, large or small, even if he started it, and will generally dote on him, checking his health, making sure he eats his food, and trying to make sure he's alright. This is something I like. Pay attention to what I said. Eren and Mikasa are a subversion of the roles of males and females, but not in character. Or Eren's role is generally of a more feminine format, but in terms of characterization, convictions, and personality, he's as man as he will be. Regardless of Mikasa's feats of speed and skill killing Titans, or her lack of affect, by her convictions, she plays the role of supporting the male lead. Her only goal is to be with Eren and make sure he is safe. Seeing her doting on Eren is also how Mikasa seems to cope with Eren's lack of confidence. She dotes on him. I find this very subtle and cute, because the major effects which Eren's failures are slowly bringing him to are just subtly but clearly affecting Mikasa. This must also be said, Mikasa could be described in some forms as a Mary Sue. She almost never fails to succeed in anything she tries and is rarely portrayed in the story to make a morally wrong decision. Regardless of her impulsion, we don't see her sacrifice for Eren as inappropriate, although her superiors do. The most important thing to say regarding that criticism is that a Mary Sue is a character trope, and a trope is not necessarily bad, depending on how it's used per character. In the case of Mikasa, though, one could claim that she is perfect in skill and in morals within the story. There is one aspect of Mary Sue thankfully not present in Mikasa, the strong, independent woman detail. This helps because it only serves to make exaggerated female characters who face no difficulties as an expression of female power fantasy, that power being physical, social, or mental being on the story. Mikasa is strong, but she's not independent, and she doesn't want to be. She lives for Eren and would want to for the rest of her life. This is one of the reasons she initially denies the new information Eren gets from his dream about Marleyan Elbians. It would mean Eren and Armin, the only people in the world she really cares about, and give her family, have a countdown on their life, and only a few years left to live. Her entire reason for living has been lessened. I will briefly review this. Is Mikasa's relationship with Eren platonic or romantic? Largely, to me, it is unimportant, but there is a general thought I have found of people who remain firm that it is platonic. I see this more consistently than romance arguments. Oh man, we're going, dude. I will say you have plenty of evidence to support a romantic claim via character interaction and details I've already gone over. Aaron and Mikasa share very few intimate scenes, although the scene where they both cry when the Titan who ate Aaron's mom appeared is notable. But if their relationship is platonic, it's as devoting and loving, at least for Mikasa's case, as you could be. This is something sad about this relationship. Aaron does not reciprocate everything Mikasa sacrifices for him. It is undoubtful, though, that Aaron certainly would if the situation called for it, like it did with Armin when he nearly died. But this lack of reciprocity is something you see in this character dynamic. The last thing I will talk about is rather minor, but of the topic. I said Mikasa's scar and scarf are a form of marking meant to make her appear unique. The scar on Mikasa's face is actually received from Aaron when he punches at Mikasa the first time he becomes a Titan. Perhaps this realizes the pain Mikasa goes through to protect Aaron. A scar, on the other hand, is typically a masculine sign. Even in the real world, women have been found to consider a scar in the face of a man attractive. Mikasa's scarf could represent a variety of things, or it could just be a character design quirk. Red traditionally represents romance and aggression, both traits which are in discussion regarding the character of Mikasa. She can certainly be aggressive, but the fact that her scarf was given to her by Aaron is what I like to call an in-gift. Like an in a joke, it is a gift, the context of which is only understood by the gift giver and receiver. It is seen in a variety of romantic practices, and the wedding ring is the most common example. How one will interpret all of that is up to them, but I personally see enough romantic beats to view it somewhat in that context. One more point on all of this, which made me feel quite uncomfortable with its execution, was this, in relation to lore. I was under the impression that the Attack on Titan world followed Earth, humans, and human history up until Titan showed up. After all, the Titans genocided nearly all of humanity, right? This was even further made clear to me by the story making mention of the fact that Mikasa is Asian. This means normal human races exist in this world. If there are Asians, they come from Asia, yes? That would mean that, as the setting, appearance, and naming of the characters seems to imply, all these characters are likely European, and this setting is likely somewhere in Europe, or perhaps America. Therefore, I thought the show already had an impression of race already established. All that's left of humanity is basically white people, and there were perhaps some non-whites who made it to the wall who mixed in and eventually were assimilated within the walls, making a roughly homogenous group living behind the wall. The show, from the beginning, made race a non-issue through this expression, but now not only is race a key issue of the plot, the issue driving all conflict actually, it also has made the history and races of this world completely in contradiction with the fact that now apparently real and in-story races now coexist as concepts, which just hurts my mind. Perhaps this is still Europe, perhaps Paradise Island is actually Britain, and their maps look so shoddy because of the limited view and exploration they can make of the world around them. Look at the first international map in history made in Babylon, for example. But making this element so confusing to people who are paying attention to these elements make me feel more uncomfortable about this race issue, not only on its moral conundrum I've already summarized. Of course, the easiest solution is if they simply made the races in the plot real races. I originally thought Jaeger was Spanish, but has later come to surmise it's German. Many characters in the series have German or English-inspired names. If one wanted to make this conflict Germans versus Englishmen, perhaps that would have been possible. Apparently Marley is closer to Italy in lore, though except for all the names of the characters, so maybe Marley could be Italy. The only problem is that there are people with English and German surnames or last names all over, such as Erwin Smith. And basically all characters in Marley who were the natives had German names in this introduction. One could say that they would have had their names be more German-like from their ancestors living in Marley, because living in the same land would mean their language, and therefore naming conventions would be similar. But Marley is more Italian in lore, but Germanic in naming, due to them living in the same land, having the same language, etc. This could have been done without relative difficulty, and many people already view the conflict in this way in general terms anyway. It was probably not done simply for political reasons. Making this a race war between Italians and Germans, and Aaron basically saying he needs to genocide the Italians, would have been quite a hot topic. Because it's between white people, I believe people would have been able to swallow it in the end, but there's a good chance it was avoided for this very reason. Aaron is a unique protagonist. Okay, we're going on to this. Let me just scroll it down so we have that all in the okay. Aaron is a unique protagonist in the fact that he is the chief representative of the irony of the Titans within this series. Aaron has every reason to eliminate the Titans in the beginning of the story, but the story immediately subverts this pursuance by making Aaron a Titan. Aaron accepts this aspect of himself, still using it to destroy Titans. After all, even when he first became a Titan, it was motivated by a desire to wipe out every single Titan. Moreover, the consistency within Aaron is his failures. He lost 2 limbs in his first fight, he made a decision which led to Levi's entire party being killed. He didn't kill a blonde psychopath, not only in combat, but he initially hesitated in transforming to fight her. He didn't make the hardened Titan shell fast enough against the Colossal Titan, nearly costing Armin's life and costing Erwin Smith's life. This was all especially interesting to me because I didn't expect Aaron to be basically a giant subversion. The only awkward part about all this is that it makes the story consistently very ironic. It's good that the story can play with context that deviously, but it leads to Aaron being constantly undermined, however, not in a bad way. Aaron eventually loses all confidence in himself as he continues to fail, and accepts his death from his story if it will allow the death of the Titans, showing that he never abandons his goal, but only doubts his ability to achieve it over time. And that is truly sad to see, especially with how much Mikasa sacrifices for him. The only time Aaron has been seen to doubt his goal is near the end of the Season 3, where he allows a Titan to live, treating it like a pet or tame animal of sort, calling it a patriot, and then he concludes Marley must be annihilated for his group to gain freedom. This absolute grandiose thinking, continuing but shifting targets makes sense, but Aaron does not show determination when making this conviction, probably because steeling oneself for genocide, or horrific war at the least, is not something to boast of. Ultimately, once he's lost his confidence, I'm a bit too eloquent on occasion, forgive me. Ultimately, once lost his confidence, but here his goal wavers, and it should because such a conviction is disgusting but honest. I once completely agreed with wiping out the Titans, and I personally think wiping them out would still be acceptable. They're simply man-eating beasts as far as I'm concerned. I therefore lost my agreement with the path of Eren Yeager and his crew, which has never happened to me before in series. Is that all? Yeah, that's all. Okay. Okay. So, that was my initial thoughts on Attack on Titan. That was around a year ago, and that's what I had to say. More to say than I thought. I didn't think this would be like nearly half an hour long of me just reading that, but that's what my initial thoughts were on Attack on Titan, so... Okay. That was pretty eloquent. I hope you can keep up with that. I even was almost put aback a bit by myself, but whatever. That's where I was at, so... Okay, I guess that's all I'll say on that. I'm not going to review anything more than I have to say, because that's it, So, I mean, yeah, like, that never happened to me before in a series, where I literally just no longer even believed in the protagonists, because that's what I said. I said, yeah, the moment Eren was like, let's genocide the whatever, I was like, no. Not for this protagonist, not on the same page. So, that's the first time I ever just, like, turned against a protagonist, simply. Never happened to me in any other case, so... That's all I have to say on that one, so... There you go, that's that right there, so... we can end that, so... Thank you for watching, I'm Spaghetti King. I love you all, and farewell.